Case, in our last TFL EV video, we towed this load with a Tesla Cybertruck, and what are we doing today?
Today we're going to test the same load over the same stretch of road, but we want to see how the Cybertruck compares to towing with a gas-powered pickup truck.
Yeah, so walk me through what we're towing with today.
This is a Ram 1500 with their new 3-liter Hurricane Inline 6. So this, in my opinion, and I think in yours too, is about as close as you're going to get to the feeling of towing with an EV with something that's not actually electric.
Yeah, we'll talk about why in a second. It's because this new turbocharged inline 6-cylinder makes so much torque so low in the RPM range, and it's so quiet, it really does tow like an EV, but of course with a gas tank, so you can really extend that range with quick fuel ups. Now, okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're towing. So same trailer, the same Diamond C trailer with the scissor lift from Denver East Machinery. We're returning it back down to them in Denver, and we're just gonna find out, does a gas truck tow better or worse than an electric truck?
Exactly, because we had the Cybertruck set a benchmark, again, with the same setup on the same stretch of road. So now we get to see how does the Cybertruck actually fare when compared to something more traditional.
So the load we're towing today is about 6,000 pounds or thereabouts. Those scissor lifts are pretty heavy, as I found out when I immediately got it stuck in the dirt and had to tow it out.
Oh, it's going now. We're gonna do a burnout. Go birds.
We're obviously not maxing this truck out. We're not maxing out the Cybertruck. It's just kind of a real world towing application. In case, walk me through some of the specs on this Ram.
With this 3-liter inline 6, we have 420 horsepower, 469 pound-feet of torque. So our output is not nearly as impressive as it is in the Cybertruck. There is a high output version of this inline 6-cylinder turbo, but this is just the standard output, and we have an 8-speed automatic transmission.
Now, one thing I'm noticing is the power is not as immediate, obviously, as a Cybertruck.
Floor it, Tommy. Let's see how fast it gets up to speed. Oh, that is quick.
Yeah.
Oh, that is fast, yeah.
But it is still extremely impressive. The torque delivery on this unit is wild.
It's got no problem moving this weight. That's definitely not one of the issues that we're going to have today, if anything at all, which I don't expect that we will. And it's, to your point earlier, surprisingly smooth, quiet, and comfortable, because one of the things that we love about EVs, and even when we're towing, is that despite the heavy load that the powertrain is having to push through, they are obviously very smooth and quiet, and this is really not that far off of how smooth and quiet towing in an EV is.
No, you're right on the money. This engine, you know, much to some truck people's dismay, is almost completely absent from the driving experience. You get a tiny whir at the higher RPMs, but it is genuinely almost silent.
Yeah.
And, you know, the transmissions now are so smooth and so quick shifting that there's really not that big delay in torque delivery that you used to get in some of the older automatics, certainly a manual transmission. So you do get kind of that wafty experience of an EV. Now, there are certain things that the Ram does that, in my opinion, are better than the Cybertruck. So when we were towing down here with the Cybertruck with the scissor lift, you got a lot of kind of clangs and rattles and bangs from that unibody design. Have you ever experienced that before?
Absolutely. Towing in smaller crossovers like a Bronco Sport, you're going to feel what's happening around your hitch, because there's always movement between your hitch and your hitch receiver. And on a unibody vehicle, you are going to feel that more in the cabin. It almost feels, if you're not used to it, like something is wrong. But in a truck like this, you are very isolated from any of the clanking that you're going to have with your hitch setup. And that's true here. This is very quiet and very comfortable as far as how it tows.
One thing which is a little interesting is because it's a unibody design,
Yes?
you get a lot of hitch noise that's kind of reverberated throughout the cabin. So in a typical truck body on frame, right, the cab is just bolted to the frame. There's a certain level of isolation in the noise that the trailer makes. In the Cybertruck, you definitely get a lot of kind of creaks and groans. It's not a bad thing. It's just something that you have to get used to.
Another great advantage with towing in a more traditional truck like this are your mirrors.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Ram really did their homework on these mirrors. Now we could extend these mirrors even further out in tow mode. They just pull out. But even in the standard mode, the reason I haven't extended them is because I just don't need to. They provide so much visibility, both with the top mirror, which gives you good long distance rearward visibility, and the bottom more concave unit that allows you to see your blind spot. This is just a much better mirror than the triangles.
Yeah, and the Cybertruck has great camera systems, very high definition, so there's angles that you can see there. But overall, visibility, and especially through more traditional means like trying to look through your rear view mirror, which even with your tonneau cover down in the Cybertruck, doesn't really give you a lot of vision. And to your point, those smaller triangular mirrors in the Cybertruck, you just have a hard time looking out of it unless you're using those camera views.
Right. No, the visibility is just a lot better in this Ram. Other thing that's better is the placement of the trailer brake controller.
Yeah,
so the Cybertruck,
the fact that it's a real trailer brake controller.
well, the Cybertruck, you can use kind of the scroll wheels and then push a button on the screen, but being able to just simply reach down here, grab it if you need to use trailer brakes, or increase the gain and then, you know, do the same kind of thing from the trailer standpoint is just awesome. And it works so much better than the Cybertruck having these physical buttons and controls.
Because the other nice thing about it, when you're towing, a time in which theoretically you might have to go and grab the trailer brake is if you start experiencing some sway. And that can be an off-putting situation to begin with. If you're having to look around and look at your screen to be able to find your trailer brake controller, it's just going to be a little less intuitive, a little less easy.
Now, one thing which is cool about that Cybertruck is having that regen capability to slow you down. So obviously slowing down with the Ram. We do have a tow haul mode, which will do some grade shifting where it will downshift as you decelerate to try to maintain the load. But on the Cybertruck, you get much more aggressive trailer control on slowdown with that regen, and you're putting some electricity back in the battery.
Yeah, and that's not something that we're really going to experience a lot of here because our towing route today is pretty flat. But in the Cybertruck, if we were going through the mountains, not only is the power nice uphill, but that regeneration is going to do a lot for you slowing down your trailer without having to use your brakes, which is something that this truck specifically, as we've tested it, is not that great at. It's not the best for slowing down that mass without you having to use your brakes a lot.
There's a couple other really kind of cool features that this Ram has, such as the blind spot monitoring that can detect the length of the trailer. And then if someone is in the lane you're trying to merge into, even with the trailer, it will know how long your load is, and it will give you a warning that, hey, there's someone you're closing in on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and ultimately, a lot of these features come down to the fact that these trucks fundamentally, as time goes on, they're being used more and more as family vehicles and daily drivers, but fundamentally these trucks are designed to work. And the Cybertruck, as most people know, is very much a lifestyle vehicle first. It's not that it can't do some of these more utilitarian tasks, but these trucks are a lot more purpose-built for that kind of use case, which is why you have some of these nice features we're talking about, like the mirrors, and like better towing controls. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to that.
Towing this load with the Cybertruck meant that our range dropped to under 200 miles, or thereabouts when you calculate it out. Now, with this trailer, we're averaging about 13 mpg, 12.8 right now as the speeds have increased. But what's the fuel tank capacity?
This is about a 33-gallon tank in this Ram. So we have a decent amount of fuel on board with us, and we started this journey at about half a tank of fuel. What are we at now as we close in on our destination?
Just under half a tank of fuel. So we used well less than an eighth of a tank to go, you know, the 55 miles or so. I mean, that really is the rub, right, with EVs. We're not talking about anything new here. It's well known that EVs don't long distance tow very well. And then of course you have to recharge them. But even around town, like we did with the Cybertruck, this is a very real world use case, driving 55 miles. Of course we made it on one charge. We didn't have to stop and recharge. But I still feel like this Ram is a lot more confident towing than the Tesla.
Yeah, even range aside, because the Cybertruck had no problem towing 50 miles, 50 plus miles. And if that's all you needed to do on a regular basis, then you could do that and very effectively with a Cybertruck. And the amount of energy that the Cybertruck would have used if you converted that into how much equivalent gasoline that would be, the Cybertruck would be a lot more efficient as how much energy it used. But again, even beyond just your ability to tow long distances, towing in this truck is going to be, in a lot of ways, a better experience.
And one of my big notices comparing these two is, conventional standard old power steering versus the steer-by-wire 4-wheel steering in the Cybertruck, right? This is just so much less twitchy. You make a small steering input, you get a small steering input back. With Tesla, even towing, like I wish there was a way to disable 4-wheel steering in tow mode, because the steering was really fast, which is great when you're buzzing around town, but when you're towing a 20-foot long trailer, it makes it a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that the best towing from a confidence standpoint electric truck is the F-150 Lightning, because you get this same formula with the big mirrors and the body-on-frame construction and the more conventional trailer brake controller in the F-150, and that's just a more confident towing truck than the Tesla.
That being said, I did get to do a range test towing with a Silverado EV.
Yeah, how did that do?
The range, well, so it was a very comfortable truck to tow in. It's a large truck, it's heavy, it's got a big footprint, so it felt very stable. It felt easy to tow with that truck. And the range figure that we got towing with that truck well exceeded our expectations for it. So as far as towing range goes, because of the size of the batteries in those trucks, which are more around 200 kilowatt hours, those are huge batteries.
Yeah.
If you want to maximize range in an electric truck, say you have a boat and maybe you live 100 miles away from where you're going to drop the boat off, then that truck could be useful even for a distance like that. But if you do need to tow further distances, it's going to be hard to beat something more traditional like this.
No, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point, Case, right? Like that large GM Ultium platform with the Hummer and that Silverado, you can go a long distance. You still have that concern about recharging times. But that's another truck that I know you towed with it, Andres towed with it. I haven't towed with it, but I've heard it tows really pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Cybertruck does well for what it is. Both the Ram and the Tesla tow well over 10,000 pounds, but at this relatively measly 5,500, 6,000 pound range, the Ram is just a lot more confident.
I'd say so.
So Case, we're back here at Denver East Machinery, and a big thank you to these guys for letting us use their scissor lift. If you ever need equipment, machinery in the Denver area, rental, sales, repair, Denver East are your folks.
Absolutely. And compared to other EVs on the market that we mentioned, like the Lightning and like some of the GM Ultium platform, Hummer EV and Silverado EV, Cybertruck is not the best towing.
No, it is not. I mean, it does pretty darn well for what it is, but it tows like a big car, and it just doesn't tow quite as well as these body-on-frame trucks.
And of course, if you want to maximize range when you're pulling a trailer, you're not going to beat a traditional gas-powered pickup truck. That's just how it is at the moment.
Yep, no, 100% Case, you're absolutely right. They're still the king, but folks, we'd love to hear your opinion in the comment below. What do you think of this verdict? And as always, this has been Tommy.
In Case.
Head over to alltfl.com for the latest and greatest in new truck reviews. And thanks again to Denver East Machinery Company.